right, let's dive right in. We're about to unpack a story that might just flip everything you think you know about how a nation gets made. We're going to see how modern Greece wasn't just born, oh no, it was violently forged through this incredible clash of identities, 100 years of war, and a final, really brutal redrawing of who was even considered Greek.
So, let's just start with a really basic question. What actually makes a nation? Is it the language you speak, a shared ancestry, or is it about a single religion? It's a huge question, and the story of Greece, wow, it gives us a really startling and super complicated answer. Because for centuries, the people we now call Greeks just didn't see themselves that way at all.
Okay, to really get this, you have to imagine a single people with two souls. For hundreds and hundreds of years, this population had this deep, split identity. It's like there were two competing ideas of who they were, and these two ideas were just wrestling for control of their future.
This is so important to get. If you were living under the Ottoman Empire, and you spoke Greek and were an Orthodox Christian, you would never have called yourself a Hellene. Nope, you were a Romaios, a Roman. You saw yourself as an heir to the Eastern Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire. Your main identity, the thing that defined you, it wasn't your nation, it was your religion. And this whole Roman identity, it wasn't just some fuzzy cultural feeling. Oh no, it was preserved, it was enforced by an incredibly powerful institution. An institution that basically acted like its own government, right there inside the Ottoman Empire. And that was the Orthodox Church. See, the Sultan didn't look at the Patriarch of Constantinople and just see a priest. Not at all. The Ottomans had this system, the millet system, for governing religious groups. And under that system, the Patriarch was given the official title of ethnarch. And that literally means leader of the nation. So he wasn't just a religious figure. He was a powerful Ottoman official, the official ruler of all Orthodox Christians in the entire empire. And when I say power, I mean real power. This guy ran his own court system for Christians, deciding everything from marriages and divorces to who inherited what. He had his own prison. He had an imperial guard assigned to him. And get this, he was responsible for collecting taxes from all the Christians and giving them to the Sultan. So you can see, the church was a deeply conservative force, totally plugged into the Ottoman power structure. So you gotta ask, why on earth would they ever want a revolution? But then, something changed. A new idea, a really radical idea, starts to drift in from the West, coming in on the winds of the European Enlightenment. And this idea was a direct challenge to that old religious Roman identity. It proposed something completely new and totally revolutionary.
Okay, so this is where you can see the two souls at war. On one side, you have that Roman soul. It's looking back to the glories of the Byzantine Empire, and it defines itself by one thing: Orthodox Christianity. It's traditional, it's conservative, but on the other side, you've got this new Hellenic soul. It looks past Byzantium all the way back to ancient Greece. It sees itself as a Hellene, a descendant of Pericles and Plato. Its identity is based on ethnic descent, and its dream is revolutionary, a modern secular nation-state. And this quote, man, it just perfectly captures the spirit of this new Hellenic thinking. You have these intellectuals educated in the West, and they start asking, wait a minute, why are we subjects of this empire? We are the children of the ancient Greeks who invented freedom and democracy. They stopped seeing themselves as just subjects in a big, multi-religious empire. They saw themselves as the rightful heirs to this incredible classical, democratic legacy. They weren't just Christians anymore. Now, they were Greeks.
And you have to understand, this wasn't just some debate happening in coffee houses. Not at all. This clash between the Roman soul and the Hellenic soul, it lit a fire. It ignited this violent, century-long ambition to expand. It had a name, the Megali idea, the Great Idea.
And the Great Idea became this national obsession for the new Greek kingdom. The goal was simple and huge: expand the borders to grab all the lands where Greek-speaking Orthodox Christians lived. And the ultimate dream? To march back into Constantinople, to reconquer it, and build a brand new Hellenic empire right on the ashes of the Ottoman one.
So for 100 years, this dream fueled war after war. But in 1922, it all came crashing down, spectacularly. The Greek army pushed deep into Anatolia trying to seize more territory, but they were completely, utterly crushed by Turkish forces. The Great Idea didn't end in glory. It ended in what's known as the Asia Minor catastrophe, a total military collapse and a massive humanitarian disaster.
And what came out of the ashes of that disaster was
a final solution to the Greek question, a radical one, a brutal one. The thinking was, okay, if a multi-ethnic state can't work, well then, a homogeneous one will be created. By force. This brings us to the Treaty of Lausanne in 1923, which did something pretty much unheard of at the time. It mandated a compulsory population exchange. And here's the absolute kicker, the thing you have to remember. The only thing that decided if you were Greek or Turkish was your religion. That's it. Not the language you spoke at home, not your family history, not your ethnicity. Just your faith.
And the sheer scale of this is it's staggering. 1.3 million Orthodox Christians who were living in Turkey, people whose families had been there for centuries, sometimes even thousands of years, were forcibly uprooted and shipped off to Greece. And it went the other way too. Over 350,000 Muslims living in Greece were forced out of their homes and deported to Turkey. And here's a crazy irony for you. A lot of them were actually ethnically Greek. Their families had just converted to Islam centuries ago, but it didn't matter. They were Muslim, so they had to go. And this is where you see the brutal, almost absurd logic of it all. Think about groups like the Karamanalids. They were Orthodox Christians from central Turkey. Here's the thing. Many of them didn't speak a single word of Greek. Their native language was Turkish. But because they crossed themselves in the Orthodox way, boom, they were declared Greek and shipped off to a country that was completely foreign to them. So what was the result of all this? Well, this forced exchange, what one historian called homogeneity through disaster, it completely transformed Greece, like overnight. It went from being this pretty diverse place with significant minorities to a nation that was suddenly almost 94% Greek Orthodox. That catastrophe, that was the final bloody act of building a nation. And this is the ultimate irony of the whole story. That modern, secular, Hellenic dream of a nation-state based on shared ancestry and language, it was finally achieved. But it wasn't built on language. It wasn't built on ethnic descent. No, the people were defined and the borders were drawn using that ancient, religious, Roman logic. Your faith is what makes you part of the nation. So, where does that leave us? Well, with a pretty provocative thought. Greece got its unified, homogeneous nation-state. The dream they'd chased for 100 years finally came true. But this whole story, it forces us to ask a really tough question, one that echoes way beyond Greece. What is the real cost of creating that kind of national purity? And what do you lose forever when a country decides there's only room for one kind of person?
This material is based on the Unification of Greece, 1770 to 1923, by Douglas Dakin, 1972, a foundational work on the formation of the modern Greek state. The reader is encouraged to seek out this book and engage with it directly. It traces a historical process that remains largely absent from mainstream narratives, yet reveals developments that are often surprising, difficult to reconcile with modern assumptions, and deeply informative. Read attentively, and especially between the lines, the work offers insight not only into how Greece came to be, but into the deeper patterns that continue to shape its relationships with neighboring states, including Turkey, Albania, Bulgaria, and Republic of North Macedonia. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more non-conventional book reviews, and we'll see you in the next one.